I hadn't intended on doing another stream today, or rather doing one at all. I posted a video earlier. Um, because I said, well, people get tired of watching something that's 20, 30 minutes long, and this is more time consuming than it is, related to actually getting the message out. Because more often than not, if you talk about something that has historical significance, you won't get anyone to actually check it out. Let me say a little Dirk and Envoy. Um, but I got pissed, and it's so here's the thing. A lot of times people will see someone that they call um, an introvert or, wanting to keep to themselves as choosing to engage in that pattern of behavior. And, there is some level of truth to that. But I think in my case, because it's been proven, there are several individuals, let me say a little wicked gesture, that if I were alone with, whether it was in a group of three, four, five, any number of people that I actually enjoyed the presence of, I'd have no problem if it was just me and that person or me and multiple people. So I've made the argument that if you consider me that, it's not because I just don't like loads and loads of people, but because the selection of people actually isn't all that good to begin with. We've talked about the issues relating to the approaching and all the other nonsense, but I'm going to approach it from a purely the standpoint of trying to interact with others when it comes to things you work on. So a while back, a few days ago rather, there was a stream I did where I had a user who asked me, what is your purpose if you're not going to seek fulfillment through those And I said, well, there's a lot of other things that are enjoyable about life. You work on projects and other types of work. And, a lot of these voice projects, as a male, I would prefer not to voice female characters. And that causes me to have to surround myself with loads of individuals of the opposite sex in this way. And I always justify it by saying, even if I get annoyed by some of the romantic choices that contemporary women make, if someone's talented as a voice actor, that I wouldn't know if they're following this same doctrine. So I send this person a script back in, I think it was October or maybe even September. I don't hear back from them for month after month, and it was really surprising because the individual, to her credit, her work ethic at that time was what I would consider just through the roof. You sent something to her, she'd have that done in maybe a day or two. And I was very grateful for that. I said thank you, all of the different specifics. And so as this month, neared its continuous parts, I said, well, when is this person going to get involved with the these scripts that I sent them that they're claiming they found themselves wanting to be involved with? Because I said, hey, you didn't respond to me for a couple of months off that email. If you don't want to be involved in this, you can go anytime you want. And she goes, oh, no, no, no. I just had been busy with the. I'll do this, this day. And so that day comes, and it passes. The day after that passes. The day after that passed. The day after that passed. Another 2 days pass. Another day passes. Another day passes. Another one passes. Just over and over and over again. So I said, wait a second. So, how's this going? What's the deal? And I'm getting no response. But the website we're on traps her because it allows you to see who is online and who is not. And I am presently staring at this profile where it is telling me this person is online. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because now I have the decision of either saying screw it and thereby having confirmed I wasted my time, with someone who wasn't ever planning on actually doing this, or I just keep sitting here waiting and waiting and waiting for them to finish this thing or at last get it over with. And I have no idea what Splendora is talking about. I mean, that post literally came out of nowhere, but that's a running theme we have on these various websites. maybe he's in the wrong stream. I really don't know, and I don't really much care at this point, because the thing that really gets me is I've tried to make it clear on this channel, stream after stream after stream after stream, what my intentions are, um, which is to pour time and investment to people that actually show their concern for yourself, and um, become involved with things that you enjoy. And Wicked Gesture is kind of mirroring my thoughts right there. Uh, yeah, I don't know what awkward touch or stare can occur when I've never met the person physically. But again, the level of logic is out the window. We've established that. So, but in having multiple installments, right? Different streams you can go and watch and hear some view be espoused. I always think that eventually the people who like to write comments that are very similar to others will eventually say to themselves, well, he's probably already heard this a million times. Um, because, after a while, the same, oh, just work on yourself, play by this, do this. It gets boring after a while. You've heard it before, just over and over again. So you say, okay, well, I'm just going to do what I want and continue with these various things. So a user writes, this is 2 days ago, loads and loads and loads and loads of sentences. And she is, I get, it claims to be a woman. I have no reason to believe it or not. Um, it calls itself responding to my decisions and choices when it comes to relationships. And what oftentimes happens when I get these comments where it's loads and loads of sentences, I start to think, oh, maybe the person, genuinely wants to have a discussion about this or whatever. So I feel the need to respond back to several of the points the person makes in their post, even if I have, various other streams that can do this if the person just pays some attention. Let me say hello to AOU. Um, and I wait, day after day. I get no response after sending a similarly sized response, and that confirms one thing to me, that this person was never interested in having a discussion to perhaps figure out what my reasons for my ideology were, and rather wanted to grandstand in a comment section. And this has been the case multiple times whenever there's some position espoused by me that can be the subject of disagreement. We had uh, the persons, rather, the Trump supporters who called themselves bashing my reaction to his State of the Union address. And it was loads and loads of guys, and it had a thing where if you go up to them and you say, hey, this is my opinion on this, they just wouldn't respond back. And okay, I'm gonna make my point, but before I continue, I think go your own. And if you get, I don't know what that has to do with anything, bubbles, but again, people are not actually hearing what I think a lot of times when people write these comments, they have the whole thing turned to mute, and then they just start typing foaming at the mouth on the keyboard. Because when you see a comment like that, you start getting confused. I don't think you are. You wouldn't write that if you were. Anyways, so like I said before, this comment gets no response, and as I was going, because I use different forms of social media. Anyone who's familiar with Instagram knows that you put hashtags and all that garbage. So I put one, and I get this comment from this person. Now they leave a comment that it's a picture of, I think it's some kind of building, and the person, their message is so confusing because they effectively um, find themselves typing something that can be applied to anything. It's like if, imagine you drew a picture of a car and I said, "Oh, this is very well put together." That could be applied to a picture of a car, of someone's face, of someone's house, and it's it's so indiscriminate that it could be used for any, so when I get that comment, I was thinking, is this a troll or is this some kind of bot spam account? Because I've had that a couple of times. You have people who will just write something, you send them a message, what are you talking about? They say nothing back. So I go to the person's profile, and it's someone that calls himself a big time fan of this celebrity. Not going to say which one it is, but you know it's probably a musician or an actor. That's all people are into these days. That's why the education system is as failed as it is. We assign our levels of importance to things that don't matter, but whatever. So I respond back to this person. I say, you know what? I leave that comment in their inbox, and I give it a little bit of time. I don't expect people to respond right back. Unlike some I've talked about before, where one of them actually got upset that I didn't text back in 6 minutes, as we all might remember of that. And a day goes by. I go and check this inbox again. Now Instagram has the seen option, or rather the seen receipt, so someone lets you know someone saw your message. And I then post a longer message saying, hey, you know what? You have decided to leave a weird comment on my content. You were given the platform to explain what you were talking about because it was the most confusing jargon I've seen on my profile in a while. And you chose not to. So, gone, deleted. Um, and it was really disturbing because I sat here and I said, how many times have I had that on YouTube? How many times have I had that on just anywhere? Even in streams, you're just sitting there talking, and someone comes in there talking about, as Splendor Gaming did earlier with the that post about whatever that was that confused all of us. Um, and I said, it's sad when you have a majority of these people who are into the relationship stuff and they call themselves trying to give advice and yada yada yada. But then for whatever reason, when you talk about another thing, they still call themselves trying to aid you. And it's done even more pretentiously because the person literally doesn't know what they're talking about. You have people, for example, who will come in here and they will repeat some kind of, I guess, clipping in a news article, and they'll say, "What do you think of this?" Like, I have no opinion of it. I haven't read it yet. Oh, well, I think, and then, no, but that had nothing to do with the stream. Go away. Um, and really, it's all traced back to this idea that if I just indulged in things, because I have a repeating commenter who agrees with me politically, but he abhors the fact that I've chosen to, approach or engage or whatever. Um, so he calls himself, trying to, leave his advice or his piece or whatever thing he wants to say. And, I can tolerate him for the fact that even in showing his disapproval, he's here for a reason. He's here for the political content, or at least that's what, seems to be the thing that he likes to go back and watch. With a lot of people that will come on here, I just go, why are you here? Because remember, and I've pointed this out before, being a person who's not significant or known to any large degree, that means people have to seek you out. They have to go dig for that. Um, they have to go and see what's this about? What's that about? And that was evident by that comment. She had only ever seen that one video or stream or whatever, um, and decides to leave this comment after watching this thing, and then when getting a response, goes just can't think of anything, or just chooses to be on their merry way, the grandstand effect. And I said, how is it that you go out of your way to actively, because again, people will say, oh, you're wasting your time with these people, yada yada yada, but you get to a point where you just have to say you can't do all of it on your own. Radically change. Hey, if you don't understand what the topic is, more than free to step out. No one is being forced to watch. So, or you could just replay it at the start and then come back afterward. Well, that's another repeating effect where people will, write some comment, I get thrown off by it, and then they just start dancing in loops. It sounds like a complaint, and then it's, oh no, no, it wasn't really that way. I didn't truly mean for that to be what it was conveyed. So that it's I swear it's like watching one of those Ferris wheels. That's kind of how I felt with these people I get involved with on these projects, because I've tried to maintain um, their level of non-disclosure, but to give you an idea of how just backwards thinking some of these participants have been. I had one person who left their well, it's about a variety of things, Envoy. It is generally interacting with others. Let's put it that way. That'll be the summary for this. I had one person who left their Instagram account on that website. I click it. I go over there. I go, hey, you worked on my thing before, and then after I think a month or two, they go, it's kind of strange that you have my account. So wait a second. Did I just read that right? You posted this on here. I didn't dig for it. I didn't, turn into one of those detectives. Okay, Wicked Jester, Brian, you guys are going on about something that is, again, just all over the place. I mean, I don't know what this is. Yeah, well, Envoy, my problem is that it look, it's not like I made it to where the first 6 minutes of the stream were pay-per-view and now it's free. You can go back and watch that and figure out what it was. So I have very little sympathy. Oh, yeah. Again, if there's always those dating advice channels you can go to. This is the reverse of that. Yeah, but Envoy, it's not about just being flaky. It's about just people in general. It's everything from having participants on projects say, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And remember, she had half a year from October to April. If she had sent that, I wouldn't have said one thing, one word. I wouldn't be doing this stream right now. I am literally staring at this person's profile where it says they are online, um, and just refusing to comment back. And I've left the thing every couple of days. Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? So it's the unreliable, and I became even more disturbed when I sat here and I thought about, because I mean, if I wrote down the name just to keep count of every person who's worked on a project with me, I can when it comes to how many have not quit abruptly, or just, oh, screw it, or oh my god, something happened out of my control and now I'm just so busy even though I'm only 13 or 14 and the only thing I have to do is pass tomorrow's math test. I can literally count that amount of committed individuals who, even if they don't get something on time, will still come back and will do it no matter what, on one hand. Three if you count myself. And they end up being older than the people who are supposedly so busy and so downtrodden with work and yada yada yada. I mean, ask yourself, if you had half a year to record, what, 4 or 5 minutes of lines, would you be unable to do that? You're telling me there's no point during that day where you don't have any free time to do it. And you're also telling me that you would just drop or run out of the project halfway through, or after doing a few. I cannot tell you how many times I have sat here, sent somebody their lines, and they announce, "This is my last time." No, in some, look, I had one person, I sent them 3 scripts. They said, "Oh my god, so much." Then they went and read it, and altogether it was about maybe 7 or 8 lines. And they went, "Oh, never mind." But again, it's the unreliability when it comes to projects. It's the ridiculous comments online. They're just out of nowhere. They don't contribute. They're worthless. I have no problem just getting rid of them. They're trash. And they're made especially wasteful when the points made in them have been addressed. If the person would just bother to go and read, that's like if I sat up here and I said, you know what, Obama's horrible. I bet he never got a Nobel Peace Prize, and I bet he never signed any major healthcare overall. This is public information. You can go and look those things up. You can ask those questions online. If I left that comment on a video of yours about why I thought Obama was terrible, that should be removed. That's worthless. And it's worthless because the information is publicly accessible, and it especially becomes not worth a damn when you sit there and you have someone write it back and you don't say anything because it goes against whatever narrative you have. Always says, can you get it done? Simple, yes or no. They want to be kind and say they can't do it, but you'll be doing me a service saying you can't do it if you can't do it. No, I was told this person could do it. They were just busy. And they even told me that they were going to start the following day. I think that was May 19th or over a week ago, let's put it that way. And I was genuinely believing in them because their work ethic, when I first encountered them last year, was spectacular. They were the first person to just pump one of these out over and over and over again. And now they're this giant liability where it's like they, they're they're this big giant block between having it finished and sitting here having it stalled forever. We live in a world where we're having shootings actually every day, but in some cases, shootings at certain places like schools, every other day, and people are dying in ways never even thought possible. But now, oh, I'm supposed to just sit here and I'm waiting till this person gets through typing their lines, doing the lines. No, and I'm still stuck in this position where if I say okay, screw it, I'm literally confirming this person just was allowed to waste what 3-4 weeks sitting on their hands. VVS says SMH sad reality. Envoy says faults in our humanity. I think it's just stupidity. Like I said, man, most of the problems that a lot of us are going to have, I know people don't like to admit this, have at least a portion of them are driven by someone else. I know no one want, they could talk about being entitled, but I mean, if you know that I want lines for something and you tell me I can have it by this time, you don't bring it then, why would I not be upset by that? So they refuse to give credence to the idea that maybe someone has done something here that is irreversible because it's been done over and over again. I don't believe in most people's work ethic, at least when it comes to just projects they're not getting paid for, because I've seen various quote unquote voice actors who give it 2 or 3 weeks, quit, and talk about, I'm so busy, I came under so much stuff. Oh, my mom has, this ailment, which no one's ever used their parent, but, I'm just saying that they come up with every reason just on the spot. I had one voice actor who, first, I think the first thing was that she got a cold. The second time was her dog ripped up the bottom half of her uh, mouth or something where she could barely speak without. And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I at the time I believe it's, oh man, she's so oh horrible. But then I thought, why would who's that unlucky? Yeah, same project. And I've tried to expand different little things I work on to include other people as well. I mean, I have so many scripts that are just on the backlog, and I can't even get them done because I'm too worried that the people involved are going to just mess it over. But again, this isn't just about them. It's about the fact that when people sit here and they call themselves trying to do a virtual diagnosis on a guy who would sit there and complain about romance and the women he's talked to and yada yada yada. They oftentimes overlook the fact that that person has had an undisclosed number of times he's had patterns. No, they're not. No, they're not paid. I will not pay someone for crappy service. Especially when if push comes to shove, I can just stick my voice in a modulator and heighten the tone, and there we go. I'd rather not because I actually want people to not say to themselves, "Why does this sound like a robot?" and enjoy the thing. But whatever. Putting effort and consideration into your craft is frowned upon. I can see. But to go back to what I was saying, you have loads of people who will call themselves making these diagnoses, and they'll never consider themselves, you know, thinking of what caused the person to feel that way or be that way. I can guarantee you, if I hadn't have had women, whether they were in middle school, high school, college, wherever, that all did the same thing of first turning you down, in some cases following it up by slandering your name, or and keep in mind they don't do what I do, where I don't say who someone is because most of us wouldn't know them anyway. But that's besides the point. They will actually say, this person said this to me. They claim to do this to me. And it was having those kind of interactions over and over and over again, accompanied by other behaviors where I just said, screw it. When you pay, they'll be motivated to do better work for you. Yeah, been there, done that. Well, again, the problem is if you make that transaction, you don't know if that person's going to actually do it or just run off. So I have very little belief in that. At least someone that wasn't Envoy or ALU or VVS or Dirk, uh, actually left a comment that was in line with what we were talking about, unlike some other people in here that were going on about every other topic. I mean, how would you like it if one of you guys was doing a stream about how you're tired of your prom date standing you up, and I go in there talking about the Cold War? I mean, come on. And then I say, oh, I didn't know what you were talking about. I come in 15 minutes late. Oh, you're saying I can replay the start of it? Oh, I don't. We're not doing that one. So it all just doesn't add up. Yeah, I want to know what he was talking about too. That's what I'm talking about. You go in there and the person starts talking. You go, what? This would be your expression if I come into your stream and I start talking about uh I don't know, the Gettysburg Address. Just 'cause, what does this have to do with anything? What are you talking about? Why are you here? That would be your reaction. And that was my reaction when I was getting upset with these voice actors. You just said you were gonna have this done in 8 days. Do you have amnesia? But again, it goes back to this idea that you really can't. I mean, I don't know what this is supposed to tell me. You have people who sit here. You've had more, and these are the comments I kind of am disgusted by a little bit more. They call themselves being religious. They'll talk about one said seek God's face and God's time is the best time and all this other little religious nonsense that hasn't done anything for any of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be posting on any of my content. And as I sit here and read those comments and watch the responses that have, or rather, watch some of my subscribers respond back to them, I notice a running theme of them not responding after they leave that first comment. Doing a little grandstanding. Oh, I'm gonna just be nasty, and then nothing will happen afterward. Um, and it becomes that same feeling of why are you doing this? And really, if their religious stuff is to be believed, and I'm supposed to just go off of the hints of life because they'll tell you, oh, the reason the relationship stuff hasn't happened yet is because of determinism. So everything's already been planned out and yada yada yada. Well, if that's the case, I'm supposed to believe that God was just this uh, prick to where he decided that I and loads of other dudes would sit here and go through talking to dozens of women just to have what people online call us beta males for the choices that someone else made, um, and then have those same people supposedly be the alphas when they're sitting up there talking about the guys they claim to be different from. Envoy says it gets patronizing when people throw religion at you at times. Told him, man, get those fables out of here. That stuff hasn't done anything to benefit the lives of anyone whose names weren't Mary and Joseph and or a pastor. Oh, I can't talk about that. And again, if all of these religious people were as Christianly as they claim to be, you wouldn't have some talk calling for the uh, deaths of other people because of their sexuality, and also all those little kids getting molested up in the Catholic Church. But shh, very quiet. We can't talk about those things. Yeah, the thoughts and prayers saying they love it. Okay, I don't know what's. Here we go again. I don't know what shutting from the sky is saying. He's all over the place again. That's the end of that. No, I think I told you before. ALU, you just it's the retardation that has been allowed to spread all over the U.S. You know, I've espoused political views on here a couple of times. No, those are more likely to be condemned, but they're done with the intent of just framing basic ways of improving the lives of those that happen to check the stuff out or otherwise call themselves wanting to see what I'm talking about. So, for example, you'll have people who will complain about the political climate. Oh, neither party does anything for me. Well, again, that's because they're taking money from those corporate donors who they're going to put above and beyond any other person or group. And, it becomes very frustrating to sit there and have to admit that a majority of people just are not going to want to take the time and look at the root problems and causes of things. Yes, I will freely admit I am a sore loser. That's why I've talked about this stuff before. That is, part of what has caused my discontent with many of those who are my contemporaries. But it is from the fact that I've sat here and tried to engage with them and actually do things with them and been and I feel let down, that has resulted in me just being done with it. I have no idea what he's talking about either, Envoy. And then again, another person I've never seen before. We already know my policy on that. I will answer just because it seems to have a genuine frame of mind. I identify as Catholic, although my ideology is a more perfected, more liberal version of their own. So, just like how you have new Democrats and the new Catholic, we don't discriminate against members of the LGBT community. We don't try to cover up little kids getting molested in our churches. I'm sorry. Shh. Be very, very quiet. We can't talk about those things. Yeah, I don't. Again, no one has any idea what he's talking about. And if this flight was so great, I don't know why he's not on there, but instead sitting up in the chat room. I hope the passengers know about your sitting in here. That can cause some technical malfunctions. I don't think people realize that shutting from the sky is so dangerous. He's now decided to jeopardize the lives of everyone on that plane to get in the stream with me. I feel very honored and at the same time forsaken to take part in that. So I'm very worried about the passengers and the union and the team and all that. But yeah, I just think it's really funny how when you really put things into emphasis, most of the ways in which people call themselves trying to strike back over things can be subverted very easily and maliciously. So, for example, all these comments I'm sitting here complaining about, I could easily just disable comment sections. I could make it to where people can only really interact with me through private message. We just have streams, just me talking. No one's writing anything. Okay, well, can you wait for the connected flight off of here? That'd be much appreciated. I could also, you have the guy who got, uh, the band hammer. He's gonna go. I'm gonna knock I'm gonna put one star off or one. What was it? The thumbs up and thumbs down. I could disable that too. I mean, really, I can play guerrilla warfare when it comes to just what is allowed to be expressed and what's not allowed to be shown on here if I wanted to. And it's just because I'm tired of trying to actually give people the time of day. Um, if they're going to act in a manner that is not conducive to having a discussion in which they can accept and concede certain things. Again, retardation. That's all I'll say, AB. You can make whatever other conclusion you want. That's my response to that question and the decision that has been made by those. Yeah, shutting from the sky is just very confusing. Oh, he's on his tangent. I find it very comical that people take the time because we should all know what we like after one point or another. The person who um, left a comment about the cross or whatever didn't just happen to come upon me or just see this by chance. Someone that sat there and decided to leave a comment that was like that and got rebuffed. Goes, oh, I don't like anyone thumb you down. Oh, so it all goes back to what I was saying, which is that there is a seeming lack of understanding by people of what role they play, because most of us, and it's a bitter pill to swallow, do not matter to a majority of us. Um, you're gonna have people who will sit here and tell you, well, I've decided to forego watching your stuff anymore. I go, hey, if you want to make that choice, by all means do so. I had one user who actually tried to say, oh, well, don't you want me to watch your stuff so I can get you up to whatever number and all that? And I said, it wouldn't matter to me one way or the other, because if you're going to sit there and try to, it's like when you have those channels that are bigger and they have the super chat thing where the people actually pay you to read some insulting comment, and they'll go, I made him say that, but it still doesn't do anything to actually make that person quit or reverse their opinion on things. And again, if the stuff was so bad, why did they watch it? Like I've said before, I could see if I was maybe what do you call it, some kind of political figure or someone that actually held office and had control over your life. You have more people who have thumbs down this stream than people who have gone after their tax commissioner for his malpractice. So it's all over the place. If anyone has anything else they want to say, speak now or forever hold your peace. But yeah, if there's one thing the stream has done, I certainly feel better afterward, because it just goes, it's really just reinforced everything I said. I till vote up, it'll be, well, it's about to be 0-0 because I'm gonna disable this thing. Told you, man, we have a policy on this stuff. It's not excessively hard to fight back against um, the levels of bizarre behavior. So there's that. Oh, and then again, ask yourself this: if this group was certainly so opposed to what I have to say and what's been said, why would they sit there and watch it? No one thinks that's weird. No one says, "What's the problem with that?" But yeah, it's stuff like that that is part of the reason I've foregone many of these interactions. And one of the things that was most disturbing about many of my detractors is they'll try to insult me over not being with someone. Um, and the thing they can never realize is that I expect that from them because they themselves still cannot concede the idea that this is really all we have on them. This could be someone that is perfectly content with everything else, as I've been when these, other participants and projects have shown competence, and we can't go after them over that. So I don't know if she's. Let me see. Oh boy, I have to go look. Probably, I'd imagine. Let's see here. Yep, figures. But yeah, I'd like to thank those that participated. The downvote thing is really weird. Maybe this was like a trolls day or something. Hey, it's Troll Memorial Day. That's what it is. So we'll see what happens. And we'll keep fighting against the retardation and the wanting to watch those we call ourselves being opposed to, and just keep tolerating it. Um, I've tried to make it clear on here that part of what has been done is to show that you don't have loads and loads and loads of time, as you're often told when you're 20 or whatever age that someone might call young. um, and I've tried to capitalize on that short span of time that's allotted to me to do things, and that doesn't involve going on the pages of people that I call myself dissing by downvoting and trying to show my disillusion with them. It has to do. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.